DreAllDay.com.
Now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline, show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative that is the go-getter energy that moves all of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all of this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, techniques, wrote a bunch of books, and one unifying philosophy and theory, all known. Actually, it's a philosophy, not a theory, it's a philosophy, unifying philosophy, all under the umbrella that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to let go of smaller things so that you can grab onto bigger things. Now, before I get into explaining where this topic is coming from, I also want to give you some reference material that you can refer yourself to at your convenience. Let me tell you that I have a daily motivation text message that I want to send to you, straight to your phone, every single morning. If you want to get a daily motivation message from me, if I can give you 20, 30 minutes of great material, substantial material every single day, how easy do you think it is for me to come up with a text message every morning? It is very easy. So if you want that, then you should just send me a text at the following number, 305-384-6894. And once we confirm you, you'll be getting that every day. And you can engage with me there because I do respond to my text as well. So you can get that just again by texting me at the number 305-384-6894. Now, this topic, how to let go of smaller things in order to grab onto bigger things. I touched on this concept back in episode 1207, about 3-4 years ago. And the topic was don't settle for good enough out of fear that you won't find better. And this is kind of like a sister conversation to that conversation that we're going to have here today. And I had somebody ask me, actually specifically ask me about this very concept, not today, but the day that I'm recording this. And that's why I realized that I do need to give an updated conversation on this subject and speak on it a little bit, because I feel like one of the biggest tragedies, one of the biggest failures that happen in human lives is not that we don't work on our games or we don't aim for success. It's that we aim too low, or the things that we are aiming for we achieve, but we kind of never raise our target. We never go after anything bigger than what we've achieved up to a certain point. And it's often is not because we're not aware of bigger outcomes that could be achieved. It's just that we look in the mirror and we don't see ourselves maybe as worthy or as capable, or in our minds, we just can't figure out the how. How could I actually do that thing? You don't know about the doing part, even though you can see the what. You don't know about the doing part, and you have some challenges with the being part. Because with this whole be, do, have philosophy that I outlined in detail in my book, Work on Your Game. Also talked about it in the Mirror of Motivation. Also talked about it in the Third Day. Also talked about it in the Mental Workbook. Now, since I've talked about it so many times, not only here on this show, also in videos, also in 4 of my books, probably others that I'm not even thinking about right now, you think this is a pretty important topic? It is. So what we're going to talk about today is how you can really wrap your mind around. This is really about the mentality that you're walking around with, and how you can wrap your mind around the concept of letting go of things that are on a lower level, relatively speaking, so you can grab on to things on a bigger level. Because being that we only have 2 hands, so you can't always hold on to the old thing until you get to the new thing. So let's get clear on exactly what I mean by this, so that you can understand how you could actually start applying this while you are listening to this episode. You don't even have to wait till it's over. You can start applying this right now, because a lot of this is internal adjustments that you can make just in the way that you think, in the way that you see yourself, and the way that you approach life. Point number 1, topic again, is how to let go of smaller things so you can grab on to bigger things. Let's get the most important thing out of the way first and foremost. All right, this is the first point. There is a risk involved in doing this. So you have to understand that reaching your fullest potential in life, maximizing yourself, squeezing all the juice out of this orange that you have called life, and this being your opportunity to be who you're going to be as a person, understand something. There is a risk involved in doing so. Because, well, first of all, there's a risk involved in anything that you do. Life involves risk. There's a risk every time that you eat food that you did not prepare yourself. There's risk in food that you did prepare yourself. You don't know exactly what might be in there. You have no idea. There's a risk every time you get in a car. There's a risk when you get in a plane. There's a risk every time you go outside and you're amongst strange people. You don't know who they are. You have no idea what any of those people is going to do. There's a risk every time you take in a breath. You don't know what's floating around. Particles that you can't see with your own eyes, but you're breathing in and ingesting at all times and going into your body. There's all kinds of risks that go on at all times. If you're inside of a building and you are not an architect and you did not build that building yourself, you have no idea if the whole thing's going to collapse on your head. There are risks involved in every single thing that you do in life, and there are risks involved in things that you don't do in life, because not doing anything or trying to lock yourself in a closet to be quote unquote safe so that nothing can get to you in life, that's a risk as well, because you'll never actually achieve anything. So no matter what you do in life, there is a risk that you are taking on. So the question is just, what risk are you going to take? Which risk do you feel like are worth it? Since you're always taking a risk, the way that I see it, this is the way that I logically look at it. You don't have to agree with this, but I'm going to share it with you. You can do what you wish with this. You might as well go after the biggest goals you could possibly get. You might as well try to make as much of yourself as you possibly can, since there's a risk involved in that, but there's a risk involved in not doing it as well. No matter what you do, there's a risk. So you might as well go after the biggest goal and the biggest outcome that you could get, since you're going to be incurring a risk no matter what you do. That's just the way that I logically look at it. If you see it different, you can share that with me. I gave you my text line. Share that with me. Maybe you have a perspective that will be useful for me to share with my audience. So you let me know if you have a different idea. But understand, when you let go of the smaller things in life, let's say you're selling a product. And so let's put some flesh to this and make it easier for you to understand. Let's say you're selling a product that costs $100 and you decide, I'm gonna stop selling this $100 product to $100 customers, and I'm gonna start selling a $10,000 product to $10,000 customers. Now, why would you do this? Well, first of all, you can make more money with less effort. To make $10,000 selling a $100 product, you would have to sell 10 of them would equal 1,000, then multiply that by another 10. Then another 10 of those would equal 10,000. You have to sell 100 of those $100 products to get to $10,000. But if you make one transaction on that $10,000 product, you made the exact same amount of money. So instead of getting 100 sales of $100, you only got to make one sale of $10,000, and you end up with the exact same amount of money. And what if you could sell 2 or 3 or 5 or 10? Then you make a whole lot more money faster. And if we're just going deeper into the detail of just this example, from my experience as a salesperson, and any salesperson listening to this, you will agree with me, and I know for a fact that you will, that selling to a $10,000 customer is a lot less headache than selling to a bunch of $100 customers. I just know that to be true. The more money a customer or client is spending, the less headache that they bring with them. You would think, any of you who hasn't sold anything in your life, you would think it would be the opposite, but counterintuitively, it is not. So if you want to have as few headaches as possible, any of you who get into the sales world, sell things for a lot of money. Whatever you consider to be a lot, I guarantee you, the more money you sell your product for, the less headache the buyers will bring to you. Again, it seems counterintuitive, but it's true. But anyway, the point is, let's say you get rid of that $100 customer and you start trying to sell the $10,000 customer. You will experience a possibly brief and possibly extended period of time in which your hands are completely empty. Meaning, you were selling to that $100 customer and let's say you were doing pretty well. Let's say you were selling 2 or 3 products a day. You were making a couple transactions every week. And now you say, I'm gonna stop selling to them. I'm gonna start selling to the $10,000 customer. Now, there's gonna be a period in which you're no longer serving the $100 customer, so you're not making those sales, but you have not yet gained traction with the $10,000 customer. So you're going through a period of you're not selling anything. I mean, you're trying, you're working, you're putting your stuff out there, you're marketing, you're selling, you're putting yourself out there boldly and authentically, but nothing's actually happening for that period. And this may be a brief period, and maybe a long period. Again, those words are relative. That gap, that void right there, let me explain to you something. This is the crux of this whole conversation. That gap is the main reason why most people never do what we're talking about here today. In the bigger picture, the reason why most people aim for small goals and they never go after a bigger goal is not because they're unaware of the bigger goal, is not because they can't reach the bigger goal, is not because they don't have some inkling or idea of how they could go after the bigger goal, is because they don't want to deal with the void and the emptiness of letting go of the smaller one while they reach for the bigger one, because that letting go of the smaller and reaching for the bigger one, that usually doesn't happen instantaneously. Usually you're not going to just stop going after $100 customers, then the next day you're selling $10,000 customers seamlessly as if it was just easy. It's not going to just pop off like that. There's a little bit of work and a time period that you're going to have to go through when you're kind of developing and establishing yourself at that $10,000 level. Again, understanding the risk that you may never establish yourself at the $10,000 level, and those risks, just those two things alone that I just told you, that you might fail at this, and there's going to be a time period that you're going to have to put in some work before you get established. If you get established, most people will never try in the first place, and this is the reason why most people either fail in life or they only half attain a level that is proportionate to their potential, because they just don't want to try. They don't want to put themselves into that position where they could get it, but they're not willing to try it. Where they could get it, but they're not willing to deal with the void, rather, is a better way of putting it. That's the main reason why people don't they don't reach their potential in life. So I want to make sure that I'm putting this on the table here, because this is a choice that you're going to have to make. No matter what I say to you, no matter how many books on mindset that I write, and no matter how much of my material you take in, you're going to have to make a decision. Are you willing to deal with these two realities in order to go after the outcomes that you claim to want in life? This is a question that only you can answer. I can help you once you've decided, but you have to decide. So I want to make sure this is on the table here so you understand the crux of this challenge that you're going to face regarding this whole topic. Let's move on now to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to let go of smaller things in order to grab on to bigger things. Remember that everything in life is either growing or dying at all times. There is no neutral in life. You are either building or destroying. You are getting better. You are getting worse. There's always some type of change that is occurring. Any of you if you've ever taken any type of any other courses on personal development, outside of my stuff, but there are many people, when they talk about personal development, they get into more things on a more scientific level. Somebody like Bob Proctor, for example. He's a guy who was in The Secret. I like Bob Proctor stuff. And Napoleon Hill's another one who's talked about this kind of stuff, but many others. But if you were to let's just take any inanimate object and you put it under a microscope, a strong enough microscope, you will notice, like, for example, I have one of these envelopes sitting right here on my desk with some books that I'm going to be shipping out. So any of you who's ever got one of my books, you got one of these envelopes. If you were to put this envelope under a microscope, a powerful enough microscope, you would notice that even though this just looks like an inanimate object and is not moving at all, like by itself, I just lay it on the table, there are actually things moving inside of just this envelope. How is that? Because there's some type of movement going on inside of it. And I can't explain that scientifically any deeper than what I just said. But the point is, there's movement going on at all times. Nothing is just staying in one spot. Nothing. This table, there's movement. This microphone, there is movement. Inside of our own physical bodies, there's movement. If you were to take a skin graft and just put that skin under the microscope, you would notice there's movements going on there, and you might be wondering, what the hell is that that's moving inside of my skin? You don't feel it, but there's movement going on at all times. The point is, you are either expanding or contracting. You are never staying exactly the same. There is no possible way in life for any of us to remain exactly the same, because you are always growing older by the minute. I think we all agree to that. I don't care how old you are. You could be 17, you could be 77. Every minute you are older than you were the previous minute, and life is always moving forward. Even if you choose not to, life is always moving forward. Now, if life is moving forward faster than you are moving forward, then that means by simple mathematics, you are losing. And if you're moving forward at the same speed of life or faster than life, then you are progressing. So my question is, are you moving forward? Are you moving forward with the pace of life, or are you kind of being outpaced by life? Any of you who pays attention to economics or finance, one concept that might ring a bell for you, what I just said, is the concept of inflation. If you have $1 and inflation, meaning just how much the cost of life, the cost of living, the cost of everything, and the cost of life and living and everything goes up, that makes the value of $1, which is not changing, makes it go down. So if you have $1 and you just hold it for a year, let's just say, and inflation has occurred over that last year, your dollar is worth less today than it was a year ago. So this is why any of you who studies finance, or any of you who teaches finance, or you work in finance, or you read about finance, you'll hear people in every publication, all the literature that I've ever read about finances, or even when I hear people speak about it or talk about it, they all have different vehicles and different ideas and different theories and suggestions that they'll offer. But one thing that I found they all have in common is that almost all of them invariably say you don't want to just take cash and just put it in the bank and just let it sit there, because for one reason, the bank is making more money off your cash than you are. And another reason is, these are usually the two that I hear most often. And again, anybody who's in finance who hears this, if I got this wrong, please check me. I'm not a financial expert, but I think I got this part right. They say that just with inflation alone, the value of your money goes down every single day, or however often inflation happens. I'm guessing it happens every day, but let me just not get too far over my skis on that one. But the point is, you can't just stay the same. If you try to just let something sit and stay exactly the same, you are by default losing, because everything is moving every single minute. There's no possible way you can stay exactly the same. So are you moving forward? Or are you trying to stay in the same spot while the world moves forward without you, which leaves you behind in the lurch, which means, again, you're by default losing. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to let go of smaller things so you can grab onto bigger things. You got to trust yourself. This is the third point. You must believe in yourself. Simple as that. I wrote the book, The Super You, Unlocking and Living with Your Highest Level of Confidence, so that you can understand how to get to that level of confidence and stay there. Confidence is usually the number one thing that, when it comes to mindset, even though I talk about mental toughness and talk discipline and personal initiative, number one thing people really want is confidence. And when you have mental toughness and discipline and personal initiative, you know what they usually result in? You know what usually comes out of those? Confidence. Belief in your ability to do something. Discipline creates confidence, mental toughness protects your confidence, and personal initiative, it activates that confidence because it gets you moving. All right? Confidence, it's hard to be confident when you're just sitting around doing nothing. That's why you got to have the personal initiative to go do stuff, mental toughness to protect it, because just because you're confident doesn't mean everything you do is going to work out. Trust me. And discipline, which is the building block of the confidence, the foundation that your confidence is built on. So all of these mental tools that I talk about every single day on the show, they work interchangeably. They work together. They each support each other. It's like 4 legs on a stool. So when I say trust yourself, believe in yourself, the only way you'll find out your limits in life, whatever your limits are, and you might not even have any, but you got to test them out. Nobody can tell you what your limit is. Nobody can tell you how far you're capable of going. Only you can. You can't even tell yourself, honestly. You got to go out there and find out. The fact is, as humans, we don't actually have many limits. What we actually have are false limits that we create in our own minds, and then we live them out, and we call it reality. Let me say what I just said one more time, because this is very important for you to catch. We as human beings do not actually have many limits. What happens is we create false limits in our own minds. We tell ourselves what limits we have that are not actually real, but we believe them because we told ourselves, and then we live them out. And then because we reach these limits that we have created, self-imposed limits, we call it reality. I'm pausing there to let that one sink in. Have faith in your ability to level up and to do more and be more than what you have been doing and being up to this point. Just believe in yourself. Because if you don't trust in or believe in yourself, then you will either not try reaching for more at all, or you'll try and fail. You know, as I believe it was Yoda has said, you either do or you do not do. There is no such thing as trying. You say you're going to try something, that means you're going to give some type of effort. You're not going to reach it, and then you'll say, well, I gave an effort. All right, so this is what happens to people, again, when they don't have the right level of belief. They either don't try at all. Those are the people we call losers. They don't even give an attempt. And then there's the people who don't really have the belief, but they put some effort in, so nobody can say that they didn't try at all. So they can't call themselves a loser, but they still don't reach the goal because they didn't really believe. So even though they tried, they didn't get the outcome. Now, you don't want to try, you want to do it. You want to achieve. Expectation is everything, everybody. I talked about this in the 48-hour experiment episode, which was just a day ago, so that should probably be fresh in your mind. If you didn't listen to yesterday's episode, go back to episode 2023 and listen to that. Expectation is everything. The only real limitation you have in life is what you allow or don't allow yourself to expect. Repeating that last point. The only real limitation you have in life is what you either allow or do not allow yourself to expect. Let's recap today's class, which is how to let go of smaller things so you can grab on to bigger things. Point number one, most important thing, first and foremost, there is a risk involved in doing this. When you let go of the smaller things in life to grab on to bigger things, you will experience a void in which your hands are empty. And this is the main reason why many people don't do what I'm talking about here, because they don't want to deal with that void of emptiness while they're letting go of the last thing and trying to get to the new thing. So they stay where they are out of fear. Number two, remember that everything in life is either growing or dying. You're either expanding or contracting. There is no possible way to stay exactly the same in life. Even if you try, you will fail to do so. So are you moving forward with life as life is always moving, or are you staying behind in the back and letting life pass you by? You are doing one or the other at all times, by the way. Number three, trust yourself. Believe in your ability to push past the self-imposed limitations you have created in your own minds. Again, human beings, we don't really have that many limits. What we do is create these false limits in our own minds, then we live them out, and then we call it reality, but it's not actually reality. Reality is negotiable, which is something that I talked about. And let me tell you what episode that was, because I want you to get this one. That was episode number 1062. Reality is negotiable. So whatever reality you have accustomed yourself to in your life right now, you can change that reality anytime that you want to. Expectation is everything. We just talked about that yesterday. The only real limitation you have in your life is what you allow or do not allow yourself to expect. Send me a text message if you want to get my daily motivation. My number is 305-384-6894. I know you want to get it, so just send me a text message. And Work on Your Game University is open. Third Day Mastermind for one-on-one group coaching programs, and all the courses are available in there. That's at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all